Can we say
bestest of
before we
friends.
start? Can we address the back there? What's different in our background over here?
Yeah.
Maybe do you notice anything new?
Do you notice
Comment
anything
below.
different?
Let's play a game.
Yeah. Is there anything different in the background? Two things. That comment, by the way, that person put on YouTube. That what's that plant called back here?
Oh, the birds of paradise.
The birds of paradise
I
needs
was
it. Did you see that?
Wow.
Random
We were
person.
talking about like different style of adjustment, and someone commented that birds of paradise in the back looks like it needs an adjustment because it was like leaning over.
I was literally like,
Yeah.
He ain't wrong.
I was literally like, I'm so
He
happy
ain't
that was
wrong.
recognized.
It's so funny. So yeah, just shout out to Alicia who created this beautiful mural back there. Maybe we'll get a video of it for the video. But she created a topographic imagery of Chattanooga for our background. We had that beautiful pink and what else, orangish
Orange,
color
pink, yeah.
that really popped. That Erica co-created with Monica, but Erica did the grunt work of that. And we had it for a year, and it got axed by your beautiful wife. Said it had to go.
We go through changes.
We gotta go through
Yeah,
changes.
we
We're
have to
always
be.
new.
Yeah,
So
Here we
have,
are.
we have to be evolving.
So we have this beautiful new background. So shout out to Alicia. So I just wanted to say that first before we start.
Okay, welcome to the show. I liked that intro
Mhm.
about the mural in the background. If you guys don't know us, I'm Dr. Monica. This is Dr. Matt. This is Dr. Erica. We are with REV Optimal Living, and we are holistic practitioners that are doing this podcast to give you guys insight into your body, your life, swip,
Swip them.
flip the script on just your paradigm of how you live your life, to live more holistically, to live more connected to who you truly are. So these are all conversations that we are always having all the time, and we're just so excited to include you in this. So today's conversation is actually going to be stem from something that recently happened to me, but I know it's something that happens to every single person, and it's just going to change the game with symptoms and how to process through them. So
Yeah,
here we go.
I'm excited about this because like this is Jam Sesh 42. We've done 41 other episodes. The very first one we did was me and you, Monica, talking about rethinking symptoms. And so now we're fast forwarding. It's still a prudent topic, but I really like that something happened to you recently. So that way
Love
it was
that.
fresh.
I love it.
Oh, this mic just went down. I hope that you can still hear that. But it fresh to you. And I think a lot of people will appreciate this conversation because people come in here, they see us, and we do this body work. We're chiropractors, we're holistic healers, and they think that we don't have anything that ever comes up for us. So I think if any people can get anything out of this conversation, one, to know like just because you are on a path of health and healing doesn't mean stuff isn't going to come up. And hopefully what today is, we're going to provide a little 5-step process of just reframing and rethinking when symptoms do come up, which I'm really excited to share with everybody.
I think before we get into the process, just you kind of touched on it, that we just have to nix the delusion that things aren't going to come up. Like the delusion that I'm never going to have symptoms again. I really thought that for me, that I'd reach a point in my life that I wouldn't have anything, and that I would just be living my life. And when I finally let that, I'm still living my life and things are coming up. But when I finally let that go, it changed a lot for me. And I still experience a lot of people and meet a lot of people that feel that way as well. And it's such a disservice because then when you do experience symptoms, you think something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Or you're not where you should be. You know what I mean? But there's so many gifts behind our symptoms, and there's so many lessons there. And this little big 5-step actually, blueprint that we're going to give you guys is going to help you not only move through something faster, but move through it with growth and move through it with expanse to where you're going to be different on the other end of it.
I also feel like this podcast could have been called Reframing Symptoms. I think that's literally what the first one was called. But it's when we say that to people, like I'll tell them all the time, I'm like, I don't really experience quote unquote symptoms. And it's not that nothing is happening to me, but the way that I look at these things, it would actually be a nightmare if I didn't have these messages from my body. Like how the heck would I know what is going on if my body wasn't speaking to me? So I call them messages, but call them symptoms, call them what you will. But I would actually really not like that kind of life if my body was not talking to me as well.
I had an initial consult with somebody this morning, and we were talking about symptoms. And I just always say symptoms is such an interesting conversation. I've been doing this for so long and really looked into them, symptoms for years of what exactly it means. And they're so individualized to each and every person.
Yeah.
And it's really the soul's expression to the person through their body of a message that they need to hear. At this point, that's how I communicate it. And that's really what it is. And it's unique to each and every person, meaning that, back pain might not bother someone like anxiety does,
Yeah.
or a headache might not bother someone like a rash on their face does. So the symptom is going to be what exactly is going to get you to actually pay attention and stop what you're doing, which is an interesting thing to see your symptoms in that way of like, why this? Why a rash on my back? That's driving me crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to look at it from a lens of curiosity too.
What would you say about okay, so Roseanne, you're gonna share. I want you to share your story.
Let me share my
Share your
story
story
first.
first. Share your
Okay.
story
That
first.
would give us a good thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's start there.
Yeah.
All right. This is what happened to me last Wednesday, a week ago, literally a week ago. So Matt and I have a beautiful permaculture garden. Shout out to Wild Violet Permaculture, Nathaniel Bankhead, a wizard with the dirt, just amazing. And so
savant.
he's been working with our yard for several years now, and we didn't really have autonomy actually with our yard to where we kind of just like let it go crazy. And we're like, oh, well, we're not invested in it because we didn't do all the things with it. So we just kind of sat on our porch, watched all the weeds go crazy, watched it kind of get out
Nathaniel's
of
gonna
hand.
get that, right?
Yeah, so recently we're just like, you know what? No more. Like, I want to be invested into my land. This land is growing our food. This land is bringing opportunities to balance the ecosystem in our community. This land is bringing the most amazing birds and bees and all the things just for harmony within our property, basically, and our community. And so I want a piece of it. I want to be invested into this where I feel like I'm the creator of this experience. I'm the creator of this land. Matt felt the same. So the last month or so, I would say we have
The work.
blood, sweat, tears out there, guys.
Probably
Like
tears.
24 hours.
Oh my
Literally,
gosh.
everything I just said has happened with me. We're just like digging up these roots that are literally like this big that they could have been like, boop, 3 years ago if we had just taken care of it right away. So
Looking
now
like a
we're on the
damn apple
back
tree.
end.
What an
But
interesting
then-
analogy for symptoms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I talk about that a lot in my consults, that exact example. We can get to that in a second. But
Getting ahead
so
of ourselves.
I'm bent over and like really getting these crabgrass roots out, all these huge weeds for hours and hours and hours. So on last Wednesday, I had my shovel, I was digging deep, and a disc slipped in my back. And it was extremely painful to where I was frozen. I couldn't move. And I'm like, oh shit, this is not good. And I'm like, Matt, this is serious. I know sometimes I'm like, this is hurt. I'm like, this is actually really hurt. And he was like, you need to rest. So my process through this, I've never had lower back pain in my life. I just instantly have so much compassion for anyone who's ever dealt with that. I really think that's a piece of what we experience as well, is the compassion and empathy piece. But so what I went through in this process to be where I am today, a week later, even a day later, 85% better, I want to share what I did in the process. And we have a blueprint for you guys to share how we move through things and how we move through things and why we move through things, basically.
Yeah.
So
And I gotta share real quick too. 5 hours before the gardening experience, the three of us were actually climbing, and I would love if our editor just put up videos of Monica climbing in this way too. Like, she went all out with that, and then the gardening experience. But the way you were jumping and like dinoing and
Yeah.
climbing, I'm like, oh my god!
it has nothing to do with what, you know what I mean? I
Yes,
really feel like
yes,
it's
yes.
totally different. But
I'm
yes,
just saying
that's
that would
me,
be
yeah.
a perfect visual of like
But it-
what had been going on.
It does have something to do with it. And that's what people,
Yeah.
when symptoms come up, people think, I just did this and now my back hurts. And I think that there is truth in it. You take a completely different approach, and it's taken you an evolution to get there. Like Roseanne's like, don't you think it just happened because you were doing so much physically? I think it's a factor, but where you have evolved over the years that I've seen, and I've really adopted this as well. Yes, that has a factor of that, but she's done dinos and done stuff before. She's been in the garden before, and I've had people say, yeah, I did this and it happened, but there's been a buildup of things to get to that point, and you use the term, that's the straw that broke the camel's back. But I also believe that you take a deeper emotional, spiritual viewpoint of it. So like, I guess like the question is like, how can you answer Roseanne in that, or the regular
Well,
Joe?
let me say what came to
Yeah,
me as far
please.
as what was going on. Then we'll address
Because I
Roseanne's.
think that's important to frame it, because people like, of course her back hurt, she did all that stuff.
Yeah.
But what I want to say is 24 to 36 hours later, you went from couldn't move, like literally she couldn't rotate her body at all, to with it
Crying in the bed.
like she
Maybe.
I'm like, she looks paralyzed. She literally
Yeah.
couldn't move. And a day and a half later, she was 98% fine. And why
3
that's
days later,
important
gardening again.
why that's important is because we have had plenty of people have that, and like you've probably had something that lasted way longer than 24 hours. I think it's the priming that you've done up to this point, and then also this process to go deeper within it to help you move through it faster, which I think is the biggest point, is what I want to
Mhm.
I
share.
will also say that how I used to view symptoms when I was young is that it would just happen to me. So this is something, so wherever you're at on the spectrum of understanding symptoms in your body, this is going to be for you. I used to think that it would just happen to me. So when I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease when I was 17, I thought it just happened to me. I had no idea what led up to that moment. I do now. I know exactly what led up to that moment. So much unprocessed emotions, holding everything in, all this medication I used to take, and then the third round of a vaccine, that was the straw that broke the camel's back, and my body imploded basically. But I used to see it as that way. It was just like it just happened to me, and I just kind of had to deal with it. And I think a lot of people feel that way as well. And how I have evolved, like Matt was saying, over the years is now when something happens to me, I instantly stop what I'm doing and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why? This is not random. I don't believe anything in life is random anymore, because if I do believe it's random, then I'm a victim, and I'm not a victim of my life. And I will never be a victim of my life because I've lived so long as a victim of my life thinking that just happened to me. And I'd rather never live that way. I'd rather always look within and be like, why this is happening? My back went out. Why did this happen? Okay. Yes, I have been gardening for 80 hours crazily, but it's more than that. I have been overextending myself so much lately and not asking for help. And this is actually forcing me to ask for help. I know exactly why this happened to me. So that's what I do is I ask what's happening to me, and then everything makes sense. Like it makes
Yeah.
sense perfectly. I was putting way too much on my plate, not asking for someone to please take this plate. Erica, take this plate. They take this plate. And that's why a lot of men actually experience back pain. It's more prevalent in men with they are the breadwinner of the family and they're taking all this ownership and responsibility, and no one's helping them, or they're not asking for help. Their back goes out.
Gets
This is
rigid,
like
yeah.
why it does it. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's how I see symptoms now, is that I ask the question, what's going on right now? Like, why did this happen? What is my soul expressing to me that I need to hear that I'm not listening to?
Yeah.
And it's forcing me to listen to it.
That takes like a really big level of evolution too, because when you were first in the pain, like the first couple hours, and I literally saw you that day, I was like, or that night whenever I came over, but like you were in so much pain. It's like a lot of people kind of live in that sympathetic, like their body's going through something and then they make it worse by like tightening and worrying and having a lot of anxiety around it. But actually, what you just said too, it's like you actually had a second to step out and be like, what was different? What was happening? And it gives like that overarching perspective of like, I'm not in this maze right now, but I'm just watching myself and I'm like, something's going on here. And I think for a lot of people, they forget that first step of just like, slow down, take a breath. What's going on? Because if we start just going into the symptom, I think people will do that and they're like focusing on the back pain and they'll do all kinds of crazy things. Like I had somebody who did like, she had a neck problem and she was like, I had pain and I didn't even stop. I just kept going and I got acupuncture and I got massage and I got chiropractic and I got blah, 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 blah. And she never stopped to ask the root. And I think that comes from a really, really deep level of regulation to be even able to ask that. And that's what we're inviting all of you guys to do.
Yeah, and you do it so naturally and so smooth, all in kind of one motion
Yeah.
almost now, which is like we wanted to talk about this, and we were talking. What do you want to? You didn't call it a blueprint, but a formula, right? Because we talk about all the time. We've done things for so long that we sometimes forget the steps that we learn, the little intricacies of it to get to the final destination, to move through these things very fast. And so we wanted to create this kind of blueprint for everyone. And so what I think we'll do is we'll go through this method, and we're calling it the 5R method to make it easy for people to remember. But it's kind of breaking down how in that pain happened for you. You saw, I love that you did it too. Like, and you said it, you put words to it. Like, you recognize that you were putting too much on your plate and how that was correlated. I share this with people all the time. I did not come from that place of like correlating those two things, what's happening externally to what's happening inside my body. Like my first time, high school, college, having really bad pain. Like I wasn't aware to be aware
Yeah.
what was happening around us, but especially men, as you talked about with back pain, or, you know, women with neck pain and headaches. I used to think it was more structurally. Why we do what we do now is because they say like 95% has to deal with our emotions. I think it's 99%, right? So
Yeah.
the physical stuff, it's there to, like you said in the beginning, to point us and like just tap us on the shoulder. And I like the analogy, at first it'll tap in the shoulder, and then if you're not listening enough, it'll seize your entire back and hit
Yeah.
you with a frying pan. So let's break down the process and how we start. So
But before we break
yeah.
it down, because this is not a piece of it, a pivotal component of all of this is you have to trust in your body.
Mm.
This is actually foundational. I was thinking about this because I was sharing this in my Instagram stories about just what I've been doing for it. And I was like, you know, what I did right away, I of course reflected. I jumped on my PEMF mat. I did my magnetic pulsar. I got adjusted. Like I did all the things, but underneath it all, I knew my body would process through it. So if I didn't believe my body would process through it, and I'm jumping on my PMF mat, I'm putting essential oils on my back, I'm getting in the bath with magnesium, it's not going to be the same result. So
Yeah.
you have to foundationally trust in your body, and that takes time and that takes experiences. So I will say that that has to be a part of this formula that people understand. And it's a sad thing when we have departed from believing in our body. Like it is a sad thing and it happens, but there's always a return to it as well.
Yeah.
This method is called the 5R method, the 5R blueprint. And just realize, you know, I didn't just realize, but you said the trust and belief. Our mentor, Dr. Suki, talks about having a reverence for the body, like a complete trust and knowing and the power and the intelligence within. And we adopted that several years ago. I don't think he ever used the word reverence, but it's funny that our name
Yeah.
is Rev, and it just came from Revive.
6R
But like that's the
reverence.
sixth. That's like the first subset.
I
Like
like that.
beginning this whole process with a reverence and knowing that my body is incredible. If you need to borrow some certainty, borrow it from us. But like just think about, and we share this all the time. You went from one cell from your mom, one cell from your dad, and in together inside of your mother's belly created this 100 trillion cell organism that organizes everything within you. You have the world's greatest technology inside of you, whether you believe that right now or not. Please, if you're hearing this just for a little bit, take away your disbelief and understand how incredible your body is and the potential you have. Because if we can't get to that place fully when we get to that place fully, that's when these changes can really accelerate the healing process.
And it's a choice. You don't have to believe this. This is all of these things are
Very
giving
true.
you is
Try the hat on.
totally
Yeah.
a choice. So I just also want to give you that permission. If this is not for you, you don't have to
Try the
you
hat
don't
on
have
for
to
the
do
next
this.
little bit.
But I will say that what's the alternative is that okay, so here's another example. We played indoor soccer. You guys know this if you've been watching these shows, podcasts, jam sessions, and I ruptured my plantar fascia. Okay, ruptured my plantar fascia, guys. This was in February, and I could not walk. So obviously, I'm getting lesson after lesson, and I'm so grateful for all these lessons, and I'm listening because I'm growing. But had I went to a doctor, a medical doctor, not a holistic doctor, not one of us, had I gone to one, and I was actually Googling and seeing all the prognosis of a ruptured plantar fascia, it was 9 months of recovery. And I was literally, I would say, fully recovered within less than a month.
People were blown away seeing you in public. I remember after this, like people that were at the soccer game, seeing you like at Rocky and Lions soccer game, were like, "How are you walking?"
It was nasty too.
But that's what's interesting is that if you go to a medical doctor, I'm not hating on medical doctors at all. This is just the facts that, and all these people who had ruptured their plantar fascia before, this is how it turned out for them. They're going to tell you what your prognosis is. They're going to tell you, well, this is how long it's going to take. When they tell you how long it's going to take, that's going to put it in your mind. Okay,
That's how long
it's going to be a long 9 months. This is what's going to happen. Had I believed that, I would have been like, okay, yep, I probably won't be able to walk for at least another 3 weeks. But I'm just like, no, like that. My body is infinite. My healing is infinite. I don't want to agree to that contract of what maybe someone else did. So this is where you have to be super careful about who you tell, who you go to after an injury, especially if you want to move through it naturally, with ease, with grace, and indefinitely, that you have to be super careful, because whoever tells you, they're saying that over your life. They
Yeah.
really are saying that. And it's like a really powerful thing, even with something like cancer. You got to be super careful who you're going to, because they're going to tell you only what they know
Yeah.
and what they believe to be true, which is not the only way.
I think like the catch-all phrase for that too, whenever I think about people going to other practitioners, even us, I ask like, do they believe your body can heal? And from that point on, you already know if these things that you're going to be doing are supporting your body or becoming more of a crutch that your body is not is broken and is not going to fix and is not capable. So I think just asking yourself, like, even asking practitioners, like when people ask us too, like, you believe the body can heal itself from this? I'm like, I've seen incredible things, yes, and I don't even know what your body's capable of. It's how Matt said, like, your body knows what it's doing better than I do. So absolutely, yes.
Okay, formula.
Yeah, formula.
Formula.
Okay,
Do it.
Formula One.
All right, Formula One, ready, races.
All right.
Number one is, what we talk about all the time. It's recognize. So to become aware of it, number one.
And we can use my example throughout this as
Yeah,
well,
totally.
just to
Yep.
make it easy. But recognize what?
Well, I think a lot of people will have a little bit of back pain, neck pain, whatever, and they don't immediately like pay attention to it, and they'll just kind of push it to the side. So the very first step is like, what is going on, and feeling into it, taking a pause and taking a breath to really feel into the pain, feel into the discomfort, because that's like we say, the first step is awareness in anything.
And acute versus chronic is different. So let's say, for instance, my back episode, that was acute because it had just happened. But had I not learned the lesson, gone through it naturally, processed through it, this could potentially be a chronic issue, which means it's lingering, it's always there. And it's exactly like that freaking root analogy.
Oh my God.
So when I'm literally gardening, I said it earlier, but I'm digging out these roots that are like this big because I had not addressed it early on. So that's also the incentive when something comes up for you to look at it right away and move through it. It's actually going to be faster and easier to move through it right away versus shoving it down, covering up, and then looking at it 3 years later. It's harder and it takes more time.
Did you notice like back tightening up before that happened?
Yeah, it had been. It definitely had been, and it could have happened the week before either. Yeah, but
Yeah.
like, Roseanne said, "Well, don't you think it just happened because of gardening?" I think that was definitely a piece of it, but for me, there's too many correlations to what was going on emotionally with what I was carrying. I was overextended. That's literally what happened to my back. So I choose to see it that way. I choose to see a lesson in it. You don't have to see a lesson in it. That's also, again, this is a choice.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that.
I think also like to ask yourself, like, what has been new, different, stressful, even actually exciting too. Like big experiences that are really exciting also can be outside of our bandwidth that we need to process and integrate. Whereas for Monica and the back pain, I've seen you garden like literally every day. You pretty much garden. And I'm like, why that day? Like that, to me, that's not the like isolated factor to look at. Like that's not the odd factor out. I'm like, what else has been going on? How have you been?
And that's so the first one is recognize. It's like pretty simple. Okay, especially if you're in pain, feel it. But the subtlety will be to go deeper if symptoms start to arise earlier, because we tend to not listen to the taps when we wait to recognize. So that's the evolution of that. And again, Monica on the journey for 15 years still waited a little while to recognize that. But how she moved through it is what you just shared. The number two is to reflect what is going on, what's happening in my life, asking those questions, because then you can correlate that as well.
Yeah. I love that. And again, it's a choice. So I choose to reflect. I think everyone should be invited to choose in those moments. Let's say you're having really bad neck pain. What's been going on? Because we hear it all the time. It just happened.
Yeah.
Or my back just went out. It didn't just happen. It's been happening. And
why could you do that yesterday and not today?
Yeah. So I think it's to see it nothing as random. Again, that's like a big thing, is don't see it as random or being a victim. It just happened to me. It actually happened for me. Why is this happening for me?
Depending on what people come in with, or the person, or where they're at within their own awareness, Like people will they'll come in and we'll say something along the lines of, "Oh, it happened 6 months ago. What was happening 9 months ago? What was happening 12 months ago?" Right? Because there's always a lag time for the experience to come in within our system, our body to process it, and then for it to express itself. So it's causing yourself to increase your awareness of like, what have I been doing the last day? I think the best thing is start with what's been going on the last couple hours.
Yeah.
What was I thinking immediately? And then like, what's been happening this week? Oh, I haven't
Mhm.
been asking for help. What's been going on this last month? What's been going on my entire life? Right? That's eventually like that's that
Oh,
big
wow.
root down there,
Yeah,
right?
that's that
Like
big
that we
root.
really want to pull out.
That's right.
And so it's kind of a layering of seeing like what's happening immediately, but then like what's been the ethos, what's been the main theme that's been going on that may be correlated. And I think that's just like a really powerful question you can reflect on.
And everything's vibration. So people are like, how does that, okay, how does my emotions affect my physical body or anything like that? It's all vibration. So again, I was doing my initial consult today and we're going over different types of experiences that our nervous system has to process. And the reason why we go over that is 'cause we show that if you've had too many experiences outside of your bandwidth, like your bandwidth will shut down and basically your body will express symptoms. And even beyond that, you'll have less of an ability to adapt, less of an ability to fully live your life, express yourself. Like there's so much more than that. But I go over, there's physical things that your body has to experience or process, like vibrationally, of course, car accident, riding a bike, Pilates, sleeping. Of course, my body has to process gardening. My body has to process what I've been doing. But more than that, the bulk of it is mental emotional, which is like literally my whole life. How have I felt about myself when I look in the mirror? The dynamics in my marriage, the tough things that come up with my in laws, friendships, responsibilities at work, my paying my bills. This is actually a vibration that your nervous system has to process. This is not separate. I think that's people
Yeah.
sometimes think I was just thinking that. That was it. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. You can't do that. Your nervous system has to process it. And if you cannot process it or shoving it aside or it's too much at the moment, you're going to store it in your body. And when you have too many things stored up, again, that's when it builds up, and it will clamp down on your bandwidth essentially.
I was chatting with somebody yesterday and she has like just overall global pain, like different areas of her body are in a lot of pain. And I asked her anything new, different whenever this all came up about 3 years ago. And she's like, yeah, something really big happened. And I was like, our body doesn't know the difference between the emotional energy and the physical energy. So instead of addressing like the emotional component, she felt really abandoned. She felt really alone. She felt really dysregulated, is what she was telling me. And she said it started with just my toe. And I was having really bad toe pain. And I kept, moving through my life, doing my thing. And then it was like my calf. And then it was like my thigh and my hip. And I was like, our body doesn't know the difference between the situation, the emotional situation happening today, or every time we think about that situation, the same emotional cascade goes through our body as if it's happening right now. So I think our body can only have a certain amount of energy in it, like our bandwidth. And if it's something emotional and we haven't processed it, we haven't integrated it, we don't feel that gratitude, our body, every time we think about it, even subconsciously, will play that. And then if we don't have enough energy to fully move through that somatic wave, basically, our body will start to feel it other places. And she was like, the only common denominator is that situation that happened with me and then the leading events that happened after that. I was like, isn't that a really clear pattern?
And the awareness of that, I think, is the key. I'm laughing. I'm like, someone's listening to this. It's like, so every time I get a freaking foot tingle, I gotta think about my childhood or this relationship. Like, can it just be a foot tingle? Can I just
Yeah.
get this fixed? And I think it.
Tingle.
You know what I'm saying? Well, she said it started in
Well,
the foot and the ankle and all that stuff.
it was a twitching in the foot.
Because I think that can get a little overwhelming to like try to analyze everything. And that is one thing we definitely try to share with people. Yes, ask the questions, look into it, recognize it, reflect on it, but don't feel like you have to analyze it to like to the absolute end. Like this happened only because of this. I think having that a little bit of awareness and then dropping into, which we're going to talk about, the self-care and the process of creating coherence within our body and our nervous system, allowing that subconscious to the 95% to reorganize that information, reorganize that vibration. That comes back to the reverence in the body. So you're just sharing that. It's just like, I think people can overanalyze this stuff, and just
Yeah,
to not go, you
Absolutely.
don't have to
yes,
go there to
yes.
figure out each and every single
You do
thing,
not. You
because
do not have to.
it's not 8 years old, this happened
Yeah.
equals this. It's 8 years old plus the next 30 years all together
Yeah.
created this state. And now we just want to create more peace within the system.
And it doesn't have to be this thing where I'm in my closet for 7 hours thinking about what happened to me. You know,
Come out that closet.
I'm like literally 2 minutes, got it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't have to take up so much real estate in your mind either. It could
Mhm.
just
And
be
that's-
something that you think of.
That's like the beautiful thing about the nervous system too. Like we always say, this is therapy without the talk, because your body holds these experiences, it holds this information, it handles it in its own way. But once we start regulating, a lot of these things will come up to the surface for us, and those are the things that tend to make sense because they are like the top of the iceberg, and our body's only going to bring up what we're able to process. So really the key is like we don't have to go back and sort through all this like trauma and all this stuff that happened and whatever it might be, unless it's pertinent. But what we can do is start regulating today and allowing our body to start guiding us, because symptoms are very different from a dysregulated state and from a regulated state.
100%. 100%. Anything else on that?
No?
All right.
Recognize.
And number 3, I think, is probably the most vital part of it, and kind of is, we're doing this in order, but this will eventually, like Monica said, all be in one. I'm having trouble with my mic today. Number 3 is reframing the symptom, reframing the thoughts in our head, reframing why this is happening. One of the most powerful things that we learned is asking the question, not why is this happening to me, but why is this happening for me? So if you want to touch on reframing, your process of reframing anything.
This is something that is just going to have to be basically something that becomes a neural network in your mind, because it's not, for most people, it's not natural. You're not going to, if something happens tomorrow, you might not remember, why is this happening for me?
What is, what is this gift?
So
that
it's
I have?
something that you have to just actually seek at this point, I would say, like actively think about, and then eventually it becomes this thing where it's innate. It's just secondary. It's just like, interesting, this happened because of this, blah, blah, blah. But reframing is again, these are all choices. I really want to say that, because you can move through something however you want to move through it. This is just how we see it, and this is how what works for us. And to me, the most empowering, because a gift is given through this process, and you're more whole, you're more complete on the other end of it. So reframing, is reframing why it's happening.
When you've had the awareness of this reframe, like when you go through symptoms, like every single time on the other end of it, you're so grateful. Like you learn something from it. I feel that from you. I feel that from my own self. So I think you have to have a few wins under your belt to start asking that question, like, it almost became a joke like 3 years into like this journey for me and Monica. I was like, oh, something's happening. Can't wait to find out what this is all about. Like, all right, here we go, kind of thing.
Yeah. I will also say that I realized, well, I didn't realize in that moment, I know I have a really hard time asking for help. It's like a really big thing, especially I think since becoming a mom, like asking for help is super difficult. I know a lot of women can relate to that. And even that night, Erica offered to bring dinner I just had Lion because Rocky was with you.
At soccer with Lauren.
Oh,
Soccer
yeah.
with
Yeah.
Lauren, 'cause I was
So
filming
Lauren
here.
took Rocky to soccer practice because it was dangerous for me to drive. I couldn't be in the car. Like,
Absolutely not.
yeah, like it was actually really dangerous. I tried to go in my driveway a little bit, and I'm like, I can't. So I didn't. And so they offered to help, and I actually accepted it, which they've probably offered in the past, and people have offered in the past. But that time, it's just like, I'm good. I got it. I got it. Yeah. No, I actually don't. I don't got it, and I do need help. So that was like a really big thing for me. Yeah. Just wanted to say that came up.
And with that too, like I think the biggest reframe for me, because I was definitely that person where something would come up and I would look through like that Louise Hay book or like all these other resources, and I'd be like, what's the spiritual meaning? What's the emotional component? Like, what is this? And I think I got so like in the weeds of all of that I forgot that everything is temporary, and I was prolonging it in some kind of way just by needing to like juice this thing. Like I can't even describe how it felt to like try to get to an answer, try to fix it actually by going through like the emotional component, of it. But I think the biggest thing is that everything is temporary, and this is going to change. Like whenever I saw you that day, that time, you had already changed so much of your vibration, I really believe, just by allowing us, that whenever I even saw you, I was like, things were different from the first hour I was there to like the last hour. So I'm like, those signs are like signs of vitality to me. And knowing that you already believed like, I'm going to be okay. I'm still looking forward to, moving my body tomorrow, and it's going to be different tomorrow. And I'm like, that I think is the biggest thing to hold on to for people. If they have nothing else, change is going to happen. This is temporary. And then we can actually live in that experience rather than future trip of like, I got to get this over with, or dwell in the past of like, why did this happen to me?
I love that you said the temporary thing. That's like a really big thing, because if we, like, for instance, when I got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, I think in those moments people have then become it's an identity.
Yeah.
This is who I am. This is what I have. And the danger with that is that when you say I am, or whatever, blah blah blah, your body's like, oh, this is what we do.
Your
Must be
cells
true. How
listen.
we organize.
Yep.
And the more you keep saying it, the more your body's gonna hold that pattern. And that is like a really big thing in that moment. I'm trusting in my body. I'm also trusting this is temporary. I'm not a person who has back pain. I'm experiencing back pain right now, and I'm moving through it and I'm processing through it. But I'm not claiming this over my life is a big thing.
Yeah.
I think the last thing I want to say, because I had an experience and it kind of fits in with it, like there's the part of like recognizing it and seeing all these things that have led up to it. There's lessons to learn. And like we're talking about trust in our body, trust in the perfection of our body, the perfection of really the entire world and the universe. And we have to believe, I believe that we have to believe that everything is happening for a reason, right? And it is sometimes hard to think that. I'm going to share the story, and I think that everyone can find a story in their own life. And if not, look out for the next several months if you get something like this. I had something, I was leaving the YMCA. I was on my e-bike heading home. There were two bikers in front of me. Before that, someone stopped me, and I was trying to get out, and they talked to me for like a minute or so. And I didn't think anything of it, but I was like, I got to get going. And then I left, went down the street, and these two bikers were in front of me. So I wasn't at the light. I was behind them. They started going, and they were going a little slower. And I was just waiting. A car like zoomed by through their red light, our green light. And I'm like, if I would have been in front of those people, I would have crushed them and gone past them.
Yeah.
And I would be annihilated by that. And I forgot who we were listening to a long time ago. Like, we just never know the events that are happening to put you in a certain situation. So it's like that flat tire, that person in front of you, that thing that might seem like an inconvenience. You don't know. Maybe that's happening because it's preventing something really awful from happening. And that's kind of morbid to think about, but it just helps you understand, like, okay, this pain right now, it's uncomfortable, and it's not, I don't really want this, but there's gotta be a reason. And you come from that place, you can be like, okay, well, if there's a reason, I might as well learn from it and grow from it. And that's just always helped me in these moments when something comes up. And very similar to her, I've had a hamstring pull. I don't experience headaches or neck pain all that often, but about a year ago, I had a single day where I did something crazy and I had extreme pain, and I moved through it within 24 hours. And I was like, I feel like this is a miracle. So I think the more that we can do these things, the faster we can move and process through. I just wanted to share that because I feel like that's
a good
that's
example.
a big reframing of when stuff comes up for people.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And like, who knows, with Monica's story, maybe just like asking for support and the need of that too. Like, that pattern got completely interrupted too. Like, would that have happened if this didn't go down? I have no idea. Like, I really don't know. But now that changed too. So I think, like, does it matter to look at the emotional side? Does it matter to only look at the physical side? But there's something there. And if it resonates, it resonates. And what changed again? What is changing? What is shifting?
I mean, I'm definitely happy she went through it to ask for more help, because now I don't have to help her with everything. She can get more people to help us out.
Right.
Like, someone else help me with this mulch bag. Like, no, Matt's got it.
Oh my God. Whatever, dude.
I was carrying 3 mulch bags. All right. Anything else on reframing?
I don't think so.
All right. And now number 4, which most people, like you were given the reference, just go straight to this and responding. Number 4 is to respond. Respond is to take action, right? To do something about it, because something can happen to you. You can just be like, what was me? This is the worst, and do absolutely nothing about it. Probably nothing's going to change if that's the case, or it's just going to, or because your body's so intelligent, it eventually will process, but not if we have a lot of input, stresses, and whatever. That's why eventually a lot of people end up coming to us. So number 4 is to respond. So Monica, when you had the pain come up, the symptoms come up, you reflected, you looked, what did you do to help and support yourself move through it faster? Because there are things that you can do to accelerate the healing process,
Yeah.
which some people don't even know.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, so I trusted in my body. I'm always going to say that first and foremost. I knew I'd move through it. I knew this was intended. So what I did was, I rested. I had to rest. So I had to be recumbent. So I laid on my back. That's
Rest
like,
and recumbent. 2 more R's, baby.
there we go. 10 R's
Yeah.
now.
17 R's.
I had to find the position that was of ease to me, which was not many. Like sitting was not of ease. Standing was not of ease. Bending over was not of ease. Being recumbent was of ease, having my legs propped up. So I let my system be in a position where it felt relaxed. And I laid on my PEMF mat, which, if you guys don't have one of those, I really feel like that's every household should have one of those.
Mhm.
We have an amazing one that is like a fraction of the cost of the ones out there, which is as potent and powerful as those ones. It's called Health Wave or
Yeah.
Healthy Wave.
We'll put a link in
We
there.
can put a link
Yeah.
in there for
Mhm.
you guys, but it has like infrared light, it has crystals, it heats up. It is the bomb. So I laid on that, and that's what our kids do when they're feeling like they're going through an immune boost. They ask to lay on the mat. Like that's automatic. It's just in our house. Sometimes we sleep on it if we're going through an immune boost. Like we just want to be on that. It just helps our frequency a lot. And then I also have a magnetic pulsar, which is like a godsend. We'll put a link in there as well. It's basically,
Tell people that story. Why we got the magnetic pulsar.
what was
You
it for?
fell. When you fell and doing
This is
skate.
like
What
so
in the
many
This is like the
world?
original part
I
of
think we're uncovering
overcoming
something.
symptoms, overcoming a burn from skating.
Well, I didn't use it on the
Oh.
burn.
Jeez, I remember that
Yeah,
too.
remember on,
I used it on my knee.
but you also used it on
I
the.
got into a really serious rollerblading accident like 4 years ago. I got caught going down a hill that I didn't realize was a long hill, and I was going like 25 miles per hour. And I'm not a rollerblader to where I would, like a hockey player, to where I'd know how to turn and like stop in that moment. So
It was
I
like
was
Brink
also
going
heading into
down.
traffic, and I had to make a quick decision. I tried to jump into the grass, and I didn't make it that far, and there was road paint on the ground of my skin. It was like
Oh.
2nd-degree burns. It was really bad.
Mhm. Yeah.
It was serious, and I messed up my knee. So I had the magnetic pulsar for my knee, which was a lifesaver, and it's basically inputting a certain frequency into your body for like amplified healing. There's so much behind it that I'm not even versed in saying all of it. It just works so well, and if it's like a truth to me that I don't need to know what it is at this point.
Well, the hard part is what the technology, the pulse electromagnetic frequency, they cannot scientifically show how the process of that, but what it does, it stimulates the mitochondria, increases more ATP, it allows the cells to function at a higher level, but they cannot like validate that because they can't see what's happening in there. But the results when people use it versus not using it, it's extraordinary. So it's one of those things where like, I don't know exactly what it's doing, but it works really, really well. So we cannot recommend that.
There was
enough.
actually something exactly like that, Matt, where they had a study of this because people were trying to quantify this basically with magnetic pulsars, like EMF stuff. And they did this, and they did it for like a year. They were growing plants with stuff like that. They were putting like pulsars under plants, and the plants that would produce like 50 fruit a year would produce like 500. And when they went to go redo the patents for this, all the tests were different. And what they kind of came to the observation was that our body is a living organism, and that there is a observer effect that changes what's going to be observed. But I will say this, every researcher on that team went out and bought the patent anyways, even though it did not prove to be true in their trials. This is like a groundbreaking thing that people would do that, but they were like, this clearly worked so well. We're not up to science yet to explain it fully.
So yes, I used my magnetic pulsar and I got adjusted. So Matt, I was not able to leave the house. I would prefer to come to Rev and be in this space versus getting adjusted at my house. We've just learned for past 15 years that it just works better. It's just better here. The space is intended
We got a whole
for
vibe.
it.
It's a
You
whole
have
But I'm
you
vibration.
have
so
a healer
grateful.
in your
This
house.
is actually, I was like, I'm meeting my husband at chiropractic school because I want to be married to a chiropractor. I want to be married to someone who can work with the body
All she wanted me
for
for.
situations like this. So
That's
there
all
he is.
she wanted me for.
So I was able to get adjusted. That was really big because I knew I was processing through it, and I wanted to support my body to move through it faster and of ease and of grace. And I think that's all I did that day. And literally that night was really rough. Like I couldn't even turn over like without it spasming. And then the next day, I actually was here adjusting, and it wasn't 100%, but I would say 85% better within not even 24 hours, 12 hours.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and
No, I went all day. Sorry, I went all day, and then the next morning I adjusted.
I think what people can get is like rest if you need to rest. But there's things that you can do while resting. And one thing I love about you is like you're a researcher and you're going to find like natural ways to do it. And yes, if you don't have a PMF mat or a pulsar or, some of these things, like you're not gonna be able to do it in that day. But this is why learning about this stuff now, you can prepare if and when something comes up. Even the road rash that you got, what am I calling a road rash? Was it road rash burn? Like you looked up ways to accelerate the healing naturally. You learned, we got the pulsar for your need for the deep soft tissue stuff. Moist healing you learned about. And so like, that's the cool thing. You can go on ChatGPT, you can go on Google, you can look up stuff like, how can I naturally accelerate the healing process the most natural and fastest way? And you learned about moist healing, which is like when you get a scab, putting a certain lotion on it to allow it, creams and stabs to accelerate the healing process. So what I'm trying to get across is like, you can be autonomous, you can take ownership, and you can accelerate your healing. And it's by learning different stuff, because that knowledge then empowers you to then add to your protocol, essentially, which is only going to accelerate your healing as well, which you're so good at. And that's like, it's hard because some people like, they just want someone else to take care of them or do. And I get that, but like, you got to do stuff on your own, and like learning this stuff is vitally important.
I think the pain point for me is I just want to move through it faster.
Yeah,
so like, I don't want to wait for someone else either.
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to put the ball in my court, and 100%. I'm gonna do it. I will say another thing of moving through something is like tuning into your body of like, what do I need right now? Like, and so actually movement, this is like, again, counterintuitive to maybe what you'll hear from someone with a disc thing. Most people would probably say, do not move. Yeah. Do not move. And I'm like, you know what? Not right away, but after a while, after several hours, I was like, I feel like I need some movement in there. And I was like, okay, so if I was hunched over, that's when it happened. I was hunched over, so like completely flexed, like in this lower half of my body. And then when I stood up was when it happened. I'm like, maybe I need to do reverse motions. Maybe I need to like do some yoga things where I grab my feet in the back, which my flexibility is in favor of me here, but I can pull my feet behind me and I could, I wish I could actually demonstrate it here.
I left her, she couldn't move. Then I come back and she's in this reverse boat pose in the opposite way. Like, what the hell happened?
Or like wheel, like I was doing wheel even. And because that was the reverse motion that I feel like my body really needed. And it felt like this relief in those moments. So like tuning in, like the message and the movement and like the way is always there. We just have to uncover it and tune in and be like, what does my body need right now? Maybe it's something really random. Maybe it's a wheel pose. Who knows? Maybe it's a bath.
Have you guys, sorry, Matt, didn't mean to interrupt. Have you guys seen the Aaron Rodgers documentary?
Part of it.
Half of it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. He kind of goes into this where he, I think, ruptured his, Matt, you probably know more than me. Like
Achilles.
His Achilles, sorry. Yeah, it was like something. But he ruptured that, and it was a really similar thing where all the doctors told him this is going to be like a career-ending thing, possibly at least the whole season. And he's like, they told me they can't find the answers at this point. And he started to look within, and he went on like a radical different journey of just like listening to his intuition. And I think like anybody who watches that documentary, anybody who listens to Monica's story now has wisdom, and you have wisdom next time somebody has a burn or back pain too, of like empathy. So I think the more we start talking about these things and sharing these things, we see what's actually possible. And it reminds me of like the 4-minute mile of like, they couldn't break the 4-minute mile however long ago, and then one person does it, and then in that same year like 16 other people do it. So it's like, if it's possible for one, it's possible for all. But I think that's the point of like, when we say responsive, it's the opposite of reaction. And reaction would be the same automatic pattern, the same protocol, the same diagnosis, the same patterns that are running to reaction. And that the definition of insanity is basically doing the same thing and expecting different results. But response is responsible, basically. But we're responding ably. I'm breaking that down really badly. It's like the exact opposite. But it's like you took ownership of it and you started to ask yourself, okay, the reaction would be like, okay, this is the protocol for your plantar fascia rupturing, whatever that was. It was like 9 months. You're like, okay, so I don't have 9 months, and I think this can be different. So I'm going to start responding to what my body's telling me, and I'm going to start changing, and I'm going to start shifting. I'm just going to start listening. But the Aaron Rodgers documentary, as we know, he had like this crazy recovery that was groundbreaking, really.
I mean, biology belief, we talk about it, the
Yeah.
people that get a surgery or versus the people that don't even get a surgery, but they believe that they got a surgery,
Yeah.
how powerful the
Oh my gosh, that
mind
was
is.
literally my dream last night.
Oh,
That's
really?
so crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like I've
Yes.
heard oncologists say the number one, I think you were kind of touching on this, determining factor of someone healing through cancer is their belief that they can heal through cancer. And the people that have kind of this disposition of like, oh gosh, this isn't, I don't know, and they're just kind of going through the motions of it, those people have less of a chance to actually healing their cancer versus like just like your grandma. What did she do? She had it several years ago, and you told me about like she was playing a video game in her head, like just destroying all of
She
the
was
cancers.
envisioning, yeah,
Yeah.
she was envisioning like killing the cancer cells one by one, like visualizing it in her body.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Proud parent moment. Our kids are playing soccer right now. We're talking to our son about like putting in the work and that you can be better and by taking the action of doing that, but you also have to believe. And he now has his own saying that he wrote on a shirt with Monica, helped him to create, that anything is possible. And then, like
Rocky.
they're telling all their friends like anything's possible. Like if you really believe you can fly, you can do it. Anything's possible. It's like, let's not test that out because you have to have full belief in that, and zero doubt.
Oh my gosh.
You're like, oh, yeah, totally.
Wow. Breaking the
Yeah.
matrix.
But I think it's one of the most powerful reframes and ways to respond. Like anything's possible. I can do this. And I think the taking the micro wins along the way is how you kind of just like, yeah, oh wow, that scab is getting a little better. Oh my, I can move a little bit more, and that just kind of adds on top of each other over and over and over.
Exactly.
Cool. All right, last one is the last R, even though we've said 11 R's already. Responsibility was another one. Is release. And from release, I don't necessarily mean to like, because energy can't be created or destroyed, it can only be transformed. So you're taking in this experience, you're recognizing, reflecting, reframing, responding, you're growing and you're integrating. But there are lessons to be learned along the way, as you talked about. So I think we want to release this story, release this pattern within our body, so that way we can finally transform and move through it as well.
Yeah, let it go. Move
Yeah,
on from
let
it.
it go.
Move
Yeah.
on. That's what. Also, I just want to move on from things. Like I
Yeah.
don't want to hang on to it. So I want to do that
Mhm.
for sure. I think everyone wants to do it, but they don't maybe know how. I would say
Yeah.
maybe is what it is, or they hang on to it because it justifies how they feel. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big thing. Awareness of that is helpful.
Yeah, and then there is so much stories and attachments to that, that I'm a person with pain, I'm a person with this.
Yeah.
So it's really doing the deep work to release, because it's no longer, because if having that and not asking for help, not learning the lesson, you, like you said it, then the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. Like how annoying is it, the things that you've had in your life for the last 5 years, when it comes up again, it's god damn, like I gotta go through this again.
Yeah.
So it is like, I love your mentality about it, Monica. Like I want to move through this because I just don't want to experience. You've talked about, and we're talking about symptoms, but symptoms can be mental, emotional as well. It can be relationships as well. Our relationship, like you said, I want to let this go because I don't want to live this same pattern in our life anymore, because it's not serving us. Because when we have to do these things, when we have the pain, when we have the disconnection, yes, there's a lesson, there's a reason, and it's all that stuff, but like you could be doing so many other things with that time. And that's why we're here, to live this life to the absolute fullest. So just letting it go is, I think, just allows us to fully express ourselves in a deeper level.
And I think the 29th R is just relations. Relations. It's like when you are, this is what's like a sensitive thing, is that if you are newer to this journey and you don't have many people in your life that are saying the things that we're saying, basically, a lot of people feel like alone on an island. Like I'm the only one of my friends that isn't doing hormone replacement, or I'm the only one of my friends who sees this symptom as something emotional, whatever it may be. This is a sensitive time to have, like, really be careful of who you're sharing things with. I think, because if you're in a sensitive time where it's not fully solidified of who you're being, then it can easily be shaken, basically, as far as your belief of your body and what's possible for you.
I have a really good analogy of that. like I remember I was having something with my neck coincidentally like several months ago, and we had, I think it was like Thanksgiving, and we were all together. And the same thing with your back, Monica. I know you're going through this right now, but it's like where attention goes, energy flows, and we're not necessarily like maybe coddling or exacerbating or like doing anything
Yeah.
like that. You're just like living in the moment, and we're all supporting you in that way of just like do what you can. We got you for everything else. But I remember for Thanksgiving this happened to me, and I was with you guys, and I remember I was like, nobody's really talking about my neck pain. And not in that kind of way, but I was like, and Lauren, yeah, I don't know.
Like you wanted to
No,
say
no, 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 no,
something.
no, no, no. And I was like, thank God, honestly, because I was like, I was going through it. Obviously, it was obvious. I couldn't like turn and couldn't do stuff. But the worst part about it, I was telling myself this story of all of it. And then I remember whenever I went home for Christmas, actually, the same thing happened. And my family was actually overly like, how's your neck? How's this? Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, every time they brought it up, it was coming from a sense of like, I don't know. It's not like guilt or shame, but I almost felt like I was like going back to this neck pain of like, don't even look at me. Don't even address it right now, because it didn't feel, it just felt so different of like releasing the story and changing and knowing that it's temporary rather than like, yeah, obviously you know what you need and you're not going to do like backflips, or maybe you will. But to kind of set that standard for yourself too of like when this starts coming up, like the language we were having around it was like, thank you. What an opportunity. So grateful
You're
that
gonna be
I'm
all
on the other
right, yeah.
side of it. Yeah,
So
you're
your
going to be
family
okay.
was more like this my Spanish family. Ay, pobrecita, like let me take care of you. Are you okay? No offense to my Spanish family, but that's just like the
Yes.
mentality of it, and it kind of perpetuates
Yes.
the
Yeah.
pains that
Yeah.
resent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where attention goes, energy flows.
Literally. Yeah. Yeah.
And you're just like, no, I'm fine.
It's like we're cheersing for Christmas, and my mom's like, Erica, is your neck good? I'm like, let's just cheers.
So this actually brings up something really interesting of just attention with something. So I've heard this from many different situations and people about someone, let's say someone having some sort of a disease pattern, for instance, and they get pregnant, they have their baby, and through
Yeah.
getting pregnant, actually whatever pattern they were running completely went away. Why? Because when you get pregnant, you're focused on being pregnant, the baby, having a child, what you're doing. And so you're actually not thinking about whatever was going on before. This is actually a phenomenon. This is like not a phenomenon because it's actually real, but that this is the same thing can be used to anything else. Of just like if like honor what you're going on, but don't focus all of your energy on it and your mindscape on it, because then it's going to stay there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you got to move on from it.
Your body, so when someone's pregnant, the body, the mind even is focusing on the creation of something new.
Literally.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Whoa. Well, I don't know if we're talking about,
Yes.
but we've literally had a woman come into Rev, rheumatoid arthritis, really bad pain in her body from RA, got pregnant, 8.5 months, no pain. Baby comes back, pain comes back, right? Now, could she have healed during that process? Maybe, but it just shows, again, the reverence of the body and the amazingness of the body that took the focus off of the pain and the creation. So what is it that you want to create in your life? That's really where the focus has to be.
I think like really practically too, like to change it from like, I'm sure you're already doing this, Monica, but whenever something comes up, it's like curiosity kind of takes the energy of like shame or guilt or like, I think of like dysregulation really in general, but being curious about it, like whenever this came up, you're like, what position can I be in? Where do I feel this in my body? Do I feel this anywhere else? Is there any emotion attached to it? And I think the releasing is actually just being curious and knowing your body is going to do what it's going to do. But staying curious puts us in a brain state that is more open, more optimistic, more infinite, and allows things to come in. And I'm actually at the point now, like, thank you, body, whenever something comes up, because I clearly was not aware of this beforehand. But I, instead of like being really, really nitpicky or focusing on the pain or the problem, just like, why? What's going on? What has been going on? What do I feel? And just starting to ask yourself, I think actually changes completely the energy around it.
And I would say to anyone whose body is super expressive, I coin it kind of like just a sensitive or receptive person. That's me. I've always been a sensitive person as far as like feeling things more than I would say most people. Like even when I was younger, it really hurt when my mom would brush my hair. So like that this is what I'm talking about. This is just who I am. But
Lion was brushing her hair last night, and you were.
Well, Lion's a wild woman.
She was like,
Yeah, Lion's a wild
like,
woman. I wouldn't
that
let her
was-
brush my
She's
hair.
that was that.
she's
and
she's
time
reflecting and
sensitive.
reframing on that, and responding differently.
But I will say that some people are, listening to this and they're like, but, things happen to me and why does it not happen to my partner? Like, why am I the only one that has all these symptoms? And this is a question I've asked myself many times, and it's just not comparing yourself to anyone else is been really helpful for me. Like, your journey is going to be your journey and it's different for a reason. And just be here now in this moment is really helpful versus turning your head being like, oh, well, that person didn't have back pain gardening or, whatever it
Yeah.
may be, has been helpful for me to just honor what my journey is and no one else's.
Absolutely. You're your
Love that.
own soul on your own journey, and things that are challenging to you are not challenging to others, and things that are challenging to others are not challenging to you. You can always turn the page the other way. It's just you're coming from your own perspective, like, oh, why is this not the case? And that's not a healthy place to be. And reframing that, that's a whole lesson in itself in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Feel good, guys?
Yeah. Anything
That's
else? Thank you
great.
guys for joining, and just to know that your body can move through whatever you are experiencing right now. So please share this video with anyone who is having any sort of symptoms or working through something in their life that they're maybe having a little bit of disbelief that they can move through it or that the body can heal itself. This is going to be providing a lot of information and just value for them to do what they need to do. So thank you guys for joining. Please like, subscribe, and join us next time.